There's no way. Uh-oh. Find out what kind of special stud. Oh, my goodness. And that's only 2 shop lights out of 6. Actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 6. 2 shop lights out of 6. Let's finish getting this place open. How you doing? I hope you're doing well. Thanks for tuning in. I'm glad you're here. I'm Jimmy. We're making it work. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new, now you know what's going on. We might do a little weather, talk about the beautiful sun out in the sky up there, get this day fired up. Working on the project truck a little bit, trying to get this passenger door locked in. New windshield's on the way. Oh wait, we're not doing that video today. We're doing a day in the shop. I gotta hop in there, finish up that Mustang, a couple cars out in the parking lot. Plenty to do. If you haven't seen my other videos, the other master mechanic that works here is on vacation this week, so I've been a little busy. So has Bill and Riley. So things are going pretty well. Let's keep it rolling. What do you say? We always try to get in there and learn things. We always try to have some fun. And maybe I'll help you guys out and see what kind of car I might be working on. Maybe it's a car like you have. There's plenty of videos to look at too. I got 1,400 videos on the channel now. Some say I do a lot of videos. I hope you'll spend a day with me in the shop. Let's get into it. Stay tuned. Well, once this is back up in this channel here, should kind of snap into place and hold it up for you. Not easy to see. Put that back in the park. That'll help you line it up. Don't forget your flashlight. That would be a terrible thing. Let's fire this thing up. We're going to need these keys. Take this brake off. Ugh. Seat's a little far back. That should be good. Oh yeah. In and out of gear. Reverse. Alright. Now we will turn on the air conditioning. We'll see what happens. I don't see automatic. This thing doesn't have automatic AC. That's alright though. Oh, that's nice. I charged it up last night. Sat overnight. Ice cold. Alright, I'm going to double check the coolant after I run a little bit. Now I know the air works. I'm going to actually put it on heat. Make sure it circulates coolant through the heater core and all that. I don't think this has a heater control valve, but just in case. And then once I make sure the coolant's good, we're going to drive it. Make sure there's no noises or weird creaks or anything like that. And see what's next. Mini Pooper Scooper. Highly recommended for mini owners. 2014, I believe. 2012. Oof. Oh, that's a shame. Pretty clean little Mini Cooper. Customer says it doesn't run. So they towed it in. And I went out there without the camera, figuring it was going to do something weird and need an engine. And I'd be done with it. And then I would show you guys. But it fired right up and running good. Check engine lights on. Air conditioning's off. You guys know all about that stuff, right? I could turn this air conditioning on. I gotta figure out these cool knobs they got. Oh, there you go. Now I can get some AC. It's humid out this morning, only about 85, 86, but it's like 85% humidity or something crazy. It's like you're breathing water. Anyway, I'm gonna grab the scanner. We're gonna see why they check engine lights on. We're gonna give it a love rating of 5. Nothing crazy, nothing fantastic, just average. 82,485 miles of pure joy and happiness while driving. These actually are pretty fun little cars to drive. You can feel they're front heavy, but they're nice and responsive and they handle pretty well, like kind of like a Mazda Miata but front wheel drive. But they're just absolutely terrible cars. I apologize if you own one, but if you look at the list in Consumer Reports for like warranties and all that kind of stuff, these are right at the top. So Tesla, Mini, BMW, basically right at the top. All right, let's grab the scanner and stop flapping the gums before I get in trouble. Get the scan tool hooked up there. I'm gonna use the launch today. Going back and forth between the top down and the launch. The only peeve I have on this thing really is no kickstand, and I can't find anything hidden or like I'm missing something. just doesn't have one. It's kind of expensive to not have a kickstand, but that's all right. It's not that big. You can usually find a spot to set it. See, right now I just put it on the seat if it had one like the top down has. And I've mentioned earlier too that it seems like it's got almost the exact same software. I don't know who's borrowing whose, or if they just work on that stuff together. I don't know. If you do intelligent diagnose, it freaks out. So you got to do the individual and pick the brand first. And you go over here to Mini. Okay, give this thing a second to boot up. Let's see what all these codes are about. I'm not sure what the customer says about it running rough, and they tried to accelerate, it got worse, so they shut it off and had it towed in. And all I see is a check engine light, and it runs great. Of course, I haven't gone out and driven it and leaned on it going up a hill or anything like that. Automatically search. Now it'll get the VIN. If I would have just done auto scan, it would freak out and go, it's not compatible because it's on the last vehicle. It doesn't automatically go back to home. When you go back to the home page, it's not really back at home. The vehicle's still in there. One of the quirky things you have to get used to with it, I guess. The top down doesn't do that, although the software looks the same. That is the correct vehicle. All right, we'll come back. I'm going to get some codes up here. We'll take a look at those. All right, we got a brake lights implausible input, ECM fuel tank ventilation and purge system minor leak, Vanos exhaust actuator movement. That would cause the problem they're talking about. Tank venting valve, two different versions, one history, one current. That's pretty common that they'll have two versions like that. Footwell module, side marker light, mini light. It's basically the BCM, I'm supposing, probably because it's near your feet, so they call it a footwell module instead of a body control module. Makes sense if you think about it. Everything else looks good. So I'll do is I'll send them a report up front, and then I'm going to go in here with this exhaust cam code, Vanos code, which is a 2845 from Mini. First thing I want to do on something like that is look at the oil condition and oil level, because these things do not like going over on oil changes. And I can see here from this helpful sticker, I don't know if you guys can see it, but the oil change was due in March of 2022 at 78,900 miles. And we are in August of 2023, a year and a half later, and we got 82,485 miles, so about 4,000 miles over, 3,600 miles overdue. So probably with something like this, the first thing I'm going to do is tell them, let's do an oil change, and we'll have to drive it a little bit, maybe put some cleaner in the oil crankcase, like some BG or some Winds or something like that, and drive the car 20 miles or so, see if the problem recurs for us. If it doesn't, the customer can take it and see how that goes. That's probably all this car will need, just based on my experience with that stuff. But want me to find out? Go out there and take a look at the oil. We already know it's overdue, but how low is it and what does it look like? Keeping in mind, of course, that looking at the oil is really subjective. So you either have to have a lot of experience, or you can feel the oil and feel feel its lubricity. Really a judgment call. It's kind of hard to do. Oil level is the main thing. The oil condition, if it's really bad, you can tell it's really bad. But when the oil's halfway decent, you can't tell if it has been changed or not, except for what it says on the sticker. It's real subjective. Anyway, I've sent the report up front. Another thing that's kind of weird about this scan tool, when you want to send a report to the front desk, you have to save it first and then share it. You can't just share the report as it sits in the scanner for some reason. So then you end up with a bunch of saved files, which will probably clog up your process when you got to go back and delete them down the road someday. It may take a year, 2 years, a month, I'm not really sure, but we'll see. Let's get under that hood. No oil in a dipstick. So now we gotta say, we go ahead and change the oil, or just add oil and then change it. Might be okay to add some oil, get it topped up, see how low it was, and run it a little while, then change the oil. You might be help removing some of the sludge out of the motor. Poor baby. I know what you're saying. There's no way. No way. But it's 2006, so got check engine light on. You can take a look. Pretty clean, 113,195 miles. Customer says my check engine light came on and it's real nuisance. I do not like it at all. So we'll find out why it's on. The maintenance light was blinking when I first started it too, but that went out. They took, it's a regular customer, I believe. The car looks familiar, but they had someone else's oil change sticker in there and they took it off when they brought it in. Sneaky. But I can see the print. It says an oil change is due at 110, 200 it looks like. What do you guys think? Can you see it? You can see it. I'm like Monk. The same disorders, not the skills. Get this thing in here, see what kind of codes we got. Now since I use this on the Mini, I'll show you what it does. If you don't pick local Diag to put the information for the vehicle in, you just go intelligent diagnosis. Sorry, car model download failed. What? Okay. Local diagnose. This is Asian. Toyota's at the bottom. Okay. Now you just go through all these steps. It should do this automatically in my opinion. But it's not the end of the world. Not a big deal. Once you get used to how the quirks of each individual scan tool, you just adapt and overcome, that's all. I'll let this thing get hooked up and see what's going on with this cooter biscuit. I wouldn't be surprised if it's not evap codes. Seems to run really good too. We'll see. Well, I don't want to say I got a magic crystal ball or a mirror on the wall or one of those things, but evap leaks. 442, 455, 442. Got ABS code for the right-hand rear wheel speed sensor. Current. So there's something going on with that. I didn't see any ABS lights on driving it in. These are bad for the little solenoids. There's one up by the air box. There's one on the canister in the back. And there's a purge on the engine by the fuel rail. And well, I'm thinking of the V6. It's a 4-cylinder, but it's similar. And gas caps, obviously, too. So we'll take a quick look at the gas cap, see how that looks. And we should be able to run an evap bay test, except that the gas gauge is kind of high. It usually likes to gas between 20 and 80%. Every model is slightly different, but most vehicles, the gas can't be full or empty, somewhere in the middle. So we may not be able to do a bay test, but we'll try. I'll send a report up front. I got to put in the odometer and ticket number, send a report, and then we'll come back and take a look at that gas cap and a couple other things. Let's go into the engine control module. OBD2 is the same thing, but you won't have as much functionality in OBD2 as you do in manufacturer specific. Special function, evaporative system check, may take a second. This is going to show you some numbers, and it's kind of confusing the way Toyota does it. You run through steps, you do one test, you do one test, you do one test, and you have to kind of know what it's supposed to do versus what it's actually doing. It'll kind of run you through it, and then you have to figure out from there what your problem is. A little bit confusing, but we'll go over that. Okay, it shows you here your rules. The GoPro gets a little blurry when I'm only 2 inches from the screen, believe it or not. But in park, ignition on, engine on, fuel temperature below 35°C. Fuel temperature not too hot, which is on a hot day you probably couldn't do an evap test. Fuel level between 1/4 and 3/4. Evap system check can only be executed once every key cycle, so you have to turn the key off and back on if you run into a problem halfway through and start over. Automatic mode or manual mode. Manual mode is what I usually do. See if I can pick automatic mode would be great. But vapor pressure 0.052. It's reading from a sensor in the gas tank. It tells it how much pressure is in the tank, how much vacuum is in the tank. Same difference. Vacuum is a lack of pressure, but it's still technically pressure. Initial vapor pressure sensor reading. A tank side leak is unlikely when vapor pressure is above or below atmosphere. So it's comparing the outside barrel pressure from the map sensor and the pressure inside the gas tank and comparing them, seeing what the difference is, how much of a change you get over time. It'll open the purge valve and close the vent when it wants to force a test. And it'll open the purge valve and open the vent when it wants to dry out the evap canister, or charcoal canister they also call it. So right now it's showing you what state it's in. Purge closed, off. Canister control VSV open, off. And that's normally how they are. The purge is usually closed and the vent is usually open. Now it opens the purge, puts it on. The canister is still open. Closes the purge. Canister is open for this step. Now it closed the canister vent. and it closed the purge. It's not setting circuit codes either, which is pretty good. Now it's opening the purge and the canister is closed, which is supposed to, you can do too, is put a pressure gauge or a vacuum gauge in the fuel tank filler neck, and that'll help you too. It's showing you unexpected vapor pressure drop below 734 mmHg, minus 28 mmHg, likely malfunction of CCV or restricted air inlet line. So it's not happy with the results of those tests. Now, it doesn't really tell you why, so now we have to figure that out. We got to do a visual inspection for leaks or cracked hoses. Very, very common to have solenoids sticky on these things. Sometimes you can cycle them, turn the key on, engine off, and you can put a ground to it, and you'll feel the solenoid click. You can use a vacuum pump and put vacuum to the solenoid while you click it to ground intermittently, and all of a sudden it won't work. That's the only way to really test these. It'll pass sometimes a dozen times, and the 13th time you do it, because that's bad luck, it'll stick. So pretty common problem a lot of times on these. It's probably a bad thing to do on YouTube, but a lot of times you just recommend the solenoids and the gas cap and you're done. That's what the dealer does. So but I like to figure things out and see exactly what's going on. The only exception is if it's very intermittent, then basically solenoids are the only cause of very intermittent leaks. You know, if you have a crack in a vapor canister, it doesn't leak intermittently, right? So let's take a look around, see what we can see. Alright, this is the purge line right here. You can tell, the purge solenoid, you can tell because it's got a vacuum hose going to the throttle body and it's under the throttle plate, which is manifold vacuum. If it's above the throttle plate, it's ported vacuum, right? So the way this, well, I hate this stuff too. People don't put stuff back. That's supposed to go in there. This is supposed to go in here. I don't know. It didn't seem that hard to me, but some people don't like to put stuff back. So this is probably either sticking open, and the computer will look like vacuum decay. The purge valve uses engine vacuum to dry out the canister and to perform evap tests, right? But if it sticks open slightly, it'll always have a slight pull on the system when it's not supposed to. Even when it thinks it's closed, the pintle doesn't close all the way. It bleeds vacuum into the system and it gets mad about it. And also, same thing back on the vent. If the vent sticks, it will either stay partly open or it'll stick closed. So it'll have too much vacuum, or it won't be able to pull a sufficient vacuum to do the test, and it'll set that same code. So everything looks pretty good up here. I'm going to have to try pulling this vacuum hose off and seeing if it leaks a little vacuum with the engine running. But before I do that, I want to look underneath and see what things look like underneath the car. Someone's done some work on it. It's got a new starter, got a new radiator hose, it's got some wormy clamps on it. So someone's probably done an air filter. You can see the bolts are slightly over tight, not too terrible. That's something I see way too often too. They tighten them so much that the plastic splits. All you do is snug it up and you're done. Belt looks pretty good. It's got a fairly new alternator on it, maybe a year or two old. Let's take a look underneath. Looks like someone has done a canister, but a while ago. It's got a lot of spider webs and stuff, like it must sit a lot. That's a telltale. Electrical items do not like sitting. I saw Uncle Tony had a video the other day talking about his Dodge Charger. Really cool car, but he was saying how all electrical stuff stopped working. But it's been sitting for a year or so while he does body work and stuff on it. Now, like, his wiper stopped working, his turn signal, and a couple other things. But what happens is you get oxidation on all the contacts in your old school electrical items. You can either take things apart and clean the contacts, or you can replace them with Chinese stuff. Those are your two options. Some of it's pretty good. Some of the replacement parts I've gotten have been decent, but you're taking a chance. If you can clean that stuff up, you're better off. This car could have a similar problem. It was my point with those solenoids. Contacts and stuff go bad. They work on magnetism, so they're a little more forgiving, as long as they don't get dust and dirt inside them and all that kind of thing. They also want a safety inspection on this, and I can see the rack leaking and that kind of stuff, so we'll make notes about that. All the ball joint boots are tore, and the sway bar link boots are tore, but there's no play in any of it, so We just give them a heads up. Looks like the strut might be starting to leak a little bit, but you know, I'm not going to tell them they need struts. I'm going to say I see a little bit of dampness on it. Just keep it in mind. I think this car sits a lot. I think it's like their backup car, if it's the customer I'm thinking of. Let's take a look at the gas cap too. I don't see anything definitive down here, any real issues with broken hoses or anything back there. It all looks good. So we'll take a look at the gas cap next. Oh, GoPro, you're sitting there recording on the toolbox on your own, huh? That's nice. Hey, since you're on, I'm not sure if the file will work, but let's take a look at the gas cap. The original gas cap has a tether. Oh, that's not good. Nothing good's going to come out of that. So it definitely needs a gas cap no matter what else we do. Pull this off of here and after a minute or two it'll start running it, so I'll only be able to test this real quick right now. I don't feel any vacuum right now. That doesn't mean, like I mentioned, how they'll stick sometimes. And you might test it a dozen times, 20 times, and all of a sudden it'll stick. Very possible. We're going to start with a gas cap though. Pretty confident that gas cap's no good. You can click it all you want and you just barely bump it and it's open. So there's no real tension on the O-ring. They make gas cap test kits. We don't have one, but I used to have one that got stolen. So I'm not buying a new set out of protest, gas cap test set. Because the gas cap's $10, you could throw one on there and see what happens. And when you feel like that, there's no real tension on the O-ring, you know it's bad. You might as well change it and go from there. So that's what we're going to do. And I'm going to write some other recommendations down, and then I think they got an AC job for me to look at next. I know these hoods open. I've been in them many times. Oh, there it is. Ford Escape. Going to get some AC work. I don't know who looked at it. Got a new alternator. It's gonna get a compressor, so it's hot as can possibly be right now. So we're gonna get the machine over here, pull the Freon out of it, and get started. It's got 163,000 miles. I think it's a 2014. Let's take a look and make sure. Yeah, there it is, 2015. All right, let's go look at the love. See how much love it gets. So it corrupts my file, then it repairs my file, then it starts recording on its own. All right, 163,571 miles on this cream puff Ford Escape. Gonna get a love rating of 6. Looks pretty decent. Just a little effort with the vacuum and a duster, and it'd be probably a 7 or an 8. A lot of miles too. Steering wheel wear, that's pretty common when they get a lot of miles. The rubberized plastic, whatever that stuff is, tends to give up the ghost, especially if you drive like this. A lot of people like to do that instead of gripping the wheel. See these thumb cutouts? Oh, that's nice. Anyway, let's start this AC job. Make this air cold, because right now it don't work at all. All right, a couple of 13s to get them hoses off. And then I took the 13, there's 2 13 bolts and a 13 nut and stud up here. Why, I don't know, but you got to take the stud out to get the compressor out, or you got to get into the cooling system. I'm going to take the stud out of my way so I can drop the compressor straight down. Personally, I'd have just put 3 bolts in it instead of a stud and 2 bolts, but you know, it is what it is, and we adapt and we mechanic. That's what we do. This is almost out. I got to take the belt off before I loosen the front 2 bolts, but I got my electrical connector, the variable displacement connector, and the clutch connector. They're doing both nowadays, which is weird because variable displacement can go to 0. They put the little swash plate that controls the displacement, put it at 0, and there's almost no resistance. So it must be a purpose to having a clutch. Maybe it's even lower resistance. I don't know. I don't pretend to be an engineer. I just have a lot of opinions like everybody. I'm going to finish taking this stud out of here and we'll get the belt off next. I think it's a 17, the tensioner. Up there a little ways. You probably can't see, it's too dark. 17 feels a little sloppy. It might be a 16. But I got it out here, so I'm gonna see if it'll do it. Just for fun. Look at that. Oh, look at that CV boot too. That's not good. That CV boot has seen better days. Focus, back on the AC compressor. 2 more 13s, that thing's out of there. All right, settle down now. See, I made the phone ring, now I feel bad. Look, there it is. Some of these hoses and bolts are in each other's way. Like they got the hose just 1/8 of an inch too close to the bolt where my ratchet hits it. This does have a fat head on it, but supposedly makes it stronger, I guess. I don't know. I could use a little universal. It's actually pretty loose now. I take the easiest bolt out last, just so the weight's supported for me. This thing is hot too, so. I said, hey Jimmy, can you do a quick brake check? I most certainly can. Man, those are some loud safeties. I like they put a little spline in there so you think you can put a tool in there and strip them. Luckily half of them are missing or broken already. Find out what kind of special stud, wheel alignment, dowel threads we need. Alright, this one takes the black ones. Kit comes with 8 of the 3 most common sizes. But don't you worry your pretty little head, there's way more than 3 sizes. Just for fun. This kit is the Access Tools 24-piece bullet pack. That is good stuff. I don't see a part number on this kit. I apologize. I'll try to find out what it is. Might be in my Amazon store too. 2 for each wheel, of course. Got pretty nice front brakes. I don't know why we're checking them, but I just know we got to check them. All right, front brakes look good. The back brakes, not so much. Yeah, she's ready for some back brakes. Metal to metal. Okay, rear brakes and rotors. Let's see what the other side looks like. Make sure nothing really bad's happening. Yeah, it's the same. Okay, rear brakes and rotors. It's got electric parking brake. You guys know what we're gonna do with that, right? First, we got to get approval. Let's see what happens. And I'm gonna let them know, and then we'll get back on that AC compressor. All right, let's see what happens now. Oh, here she comes. Here she comes. Oh, congratulations. It's a girl. You know, I can tell. That's adult-oriented content. I apologize. Who would suspect that an older German car with a broken windshield and metal-to-metal brakes would not want to fix it right now? He's going to bring it back in a week or 2 when he has the money. I'm not even going to film it. I'm just going to put the wheels on, pull it out, and get back on this AC job. Because I actually stopped a good AC job to do it. So, it's part of the business, that's all. You just keep rowing. Because sometimes those banjos, they sound like they're way too loud, so you just got to row a little faster. Alright, I got my little stud doohickey in there with the correct end facing out, the 5mm end. These are Torx. That's a 5mm. I don't know why, but it doesn't fit out. It hits the radiator fan motor. So we're gonna slide her in there early and hope for the best. It's gonna be a little struggle, but we'll be all right. Okay, come on. The rubber on those AC hoses is so stiff. You can't just shove them out of the way like you would think you might be able to. Alright, settle down now. There's a couple of dowels. Oh, you can't even see, can you? I apologize. There's a couple of dowels that'll help me with this. Alright, get a little arm pump. I gotta take a break. Feel like I've been riding a dirt bike. Alright, that's a little cray. It's in now. Just took a delicate balancing act and some patience. And I'm just trying to get the bolt started. Have to turn it all the way in by hand. Electrical connectors are in. I'm gonna hit those bolts that I tightened with the quarter drive just to be sure. A little more oomph on. Tighten these two AC hoses up and get the belt back on there. We've been putting this thing into a vacuum. Gotta make sure there's zero atmosphere in it. My son Jeremy was asking me last night, Dad, is it true that AC lines have to come with a vacuum in them? I said, no, they don't come with a vacuum, but you put a vacuum in them. He's like, oh, so you know about that stuff? I said, what? Are you my son? What'd you do with it? All right. Stop horsing around and get the belt on this thing. What do you say? You get on there and don't you give me trouble. Didn't even need the correct size wrench and it still worked. Is it luck or skill? Probably luck. Uh-oh. I don't know what that is. There's chemtrails coming out of it. It's either an RC blimp really close or a full-size blimp really far. I'll have to crop that in a little bit. It looks like a speck of pepper on the lens. Alright, she's all charged up. Let's fire this thing up, see how it works. Let's give it a second. Don't get too impatient. Just wait a second. See if this thing gets nice and chilly. Oh my goodness gracious, my glasses are gonna fog up when I get back out of this truck or car or SUV, whatever you want to call it. All right, I'm gonna say it's got that new car smell. Let's take it for a little drive and then we'll see what's next. This thing, woo, my goodness gracious, turn this thing off of max. Well, that's the old transmission control module. Put a new one in it. It goes in on the firewall. You wouldn't think a big giant module like that would fit in there, but it fits. I didn't film it because I had a lot of people around, customers and stuff. I apologize. You can see now we have our display showing park, reverse, neutral, drive, etc. So now I'm going to try to learn this sucker. Replace clutch system, are you sure? Yes. Engine off, key on, brake engaged, shift lever and park. You can activate DC anytime. Okay. Condition insufficiency or test failure. DCT learning function. Well, it said it didn't want it running. Maybe it lied. Maybe it wants it running. Try okay again. Okay, that's very strange. Doesn't seem to want to do it. Maybe I'll try a different scanner and see what that does. Alright, this scan tool will not do it either. But I can see all my data, all my Prindle stuff works. So I'm almost wondering now if the other shop had done some repairs to it based on what it's doing now. And possibly, I don't know if it's, you know, like I said the other day, speculating, but if a charger's hooked up backwards or a jump box hooked up backwards when a battery dies during all your testing, it takes the module out, makes it so nothing would happen before. So we got somewhere, we got an improvement, but I cannot get it to do a learn no matter what I do, no matter what scanner. It says condition insufficiency and it won't do it. So now I'm going to start from scratch at the actuators and see if there's trying to send power and ground out to those. Maybe there's a problem with actuators and they transferred them from, they put a whole new transmission in it to try to fix the problem, but you know, sometimes it doesn't fix the problem. So we're dancing quite a bit here with this vehicle, but we'll get it sorted out. I'm going to do a little bit more research. I'm going to try this actuation test one more time. It tells you key on, engine off. Replace clutch, manual EOL learning condition, except replacing clutch for condition 2. We did this got everything. So, warning, if you perform DCT learning, all values are erased. Perform only when necessary. Condition 1, condition 1. I'm highlighting those, doesn't really do anything. Condition 1, replace clutch system, are you sure? Yep. This step is for gearbox geometry learning. Press OK after setting these conditions. Engine off, key on. brake engaged, parking brake engaged, shift lever and park, no DTCs. You can activate the learn function one time after key on, okay? Condition insufficiency or test failure. Alright, so we're going to dig in under the hood. I got a couple of vehicles to look at now that they're telling me that there's a CHR out there with another noisy bearing or noisy transmission or something. So we're going to take a quick look at that, I believe, and then we'll come back. 2019, 52,806 miles. And, put a 5 on the love rating. It's complaining about a noise at 45 to 65 miles an hour. And a little bit of a shake. Feels like maybe a tire's starting to go bad. I hear a little bit of tire noise. A little tiny bit. And I do feel a little bit of vibration in the seat. Oh. So there's something going on maybe with a back tire. Let's take a look and see. It doesn't sound very productive, but it does give us an opportunity to help the customer out and get them fixed up. And then we'll go from there. Now this might look familiar like the HHR the other day, but I assure you it's a different bin. Because it's only got 50-something thousand miles on it. Look at them tires. Them tires is no bueno. So that's a pretty easy one. Let's go look at the others. This tire is also no good, but not quite as no good. You know what I meant. This Toyota pickup, they brought it in because it wouldn't start. They just put a whole bunch of cool new accessories in it. It wouldn't start. They had house wiring and twist connectors and, you know, single wire. Oh my goodness. He said, well, we can fix it. We just got to pull out all the stuff you just installed. Yeah, this thing needs tires. Okay, enough horsing around. Toyotas don't break unless you wear out your tires and put silly stuff in your monster truck. It's the same truck as mine, but that's the TRD Pro, and he's put about $8,000 worth of stuff on it. So now it's nowhere near as reliable. I mean, I don't blame people. I did that stuff when I was a younger man, and I like to play with my stuff. Not new cars. I always had old cars. I would do that kind of stuff too. I would never buy a $50,000 or $60,000 truck and put 10 grand in modifications in it. I don't. But you know what? If it makes you happy, just be aware that you're probably destroying your warranty and destroying your vehicle long term because it's going to be less reliable and all that. But I've said this maybe once or twice before. But you know, if you have plenty of money, have fun with it. You know. Personally, I'd have left it stock as a badass truck to begin with, and I maybe have bought like a '94 Tacoma and lifted that and made that into a weekend truck for playing out in the mud and stuff. You know. I mean, I don't think he's going to take it out in the mud anyway. What do you think? Maybe he will. I'm not sure. All right, let's get off our high horse, get back on the ground, and go tell him this thing needs tires. See what happens with it. Uh-oh. Okay, while these two get to shaking hands, we got a lot of lights on. 180,835 miles on this 2017 G-Van 2500 series. Looks like a very thirsty person. Kind of strange too. They said check engine light on, diagnosis 1 hour, additional diagnostic required, customer thinks possible fuel pump, not interested in any other repairs at this time. So why don't we just put a fuel pump in it? That's kind of strange. Anywho, it's out of my hands. Needs air in the tire, I think. Tire lights on, stability lights on, ABS lights on. Maybe that's what he means. He doesn't really care about all the other lights. He just wants that check engine light put out. Automatically search. Not sure why it did that, but we'll give it a second to cook. I thought it was done cooking. Well, I switched it to this scanner now because it wouldn't give me ECM communication with the other scanner. So I switched it to this scanner and it won't give me ECM communication with this scanner either. Lost comm with ECM, lost comm with BCM. So I only got a transmission and a couple other modules talking. So I know the ALDL or DLC is working, maybe like to call it. We check into these codes a little bit, we're going to see why we're not able to talk to those modules. Before I go inside on those codes, I can't talk to most of the modules. I want to make sure there's no AC current. It's acting kind of weird. AC voltage, I should say. Nothing there. Charging good, 14.7. Okay.
Just wanted to make sure before I get too crazy it wasn't AC current coming out of that alternator causing all kinds of havoc. Now we'll go inside and see what we find. Well, we're running out of time to get this van figured out. We're gonna have to get some additional time on the diagnosis to get into this ALDL. The high-speed GM landlines run the BCM, ABS, ECM, and TCM, and the only one out of the 4 talking is a TCM. So we're gonna have to check to see if he's got anything they added on recently that might have caused this problem, or if there's some of these accessories for the work vehicle are causing the problem recently or suddenly. So it's going to take a little more time. Not going to be your basic diagnosis. So we'll see what happens with this one tomorrow. It's getting late. We're all closed up. So thanks for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed having you here. So make sure you torque the like button before you leave. It really helps the channel out a lot. Interactions. Leave a comment. Tell me how pretty I look today or whatever. Maybe encourage me to show a little more cleavage. Thanks for watching, guys. You're awesome. Hope I see you in the next video.